I'm really excited to bring up this next group. It's a panel of 4 individuals who are going to talk to you about what it's like to live with ataxia. And so let me introduce a few of them to you right now. Well, actually, let me introduce all of them to you right now. So the first up, we have our moderator, who is Kyle Bryant. Kyle was diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia at age 17, and he has started one of the most successful campaigns for FA research called Ride Ataxia. He is also a co-host for the popular podcast series, Two Disabled Dudes. So if you haven't checked out that podcast, you really need to. It's a great informational podcast that he does. And also, he has completed numerous long-distance bike rides and has participated in a variety of forums as an advocate for persons with ataxia and treatment development. Kyle, I would like you to come on up. Come on up, Kyle. Let's give Kyle a welcome. In addition to Kyle, I'm going to call up Jonas Chapkauskas. Did I do that right, Jonas? Get it good? Okay. Yay, Jonas. Jonas was diagnosed with unknown SCA approximately 23 years ago, but he was confirmed with SCA 15 5 years ago. He is a founder and leader of Chicago Support Group. He has been hosting the Chicago Walk This Way event and also Rocking for Ataxia fundraiser, along with other seminar type events like the Town Hall Tour. He has a YouTube channel with about a dozen educational tip videos, and he is author of the book, Life with Ataxia. Please welcome Jonas. Jonas, sit right down. Yep. And then next up, I'd like to bring up Kathy DiCrescenzo. Kathy was born and raised in Fairfield, Connecticut, and relocated 15 years ago to Delaware. 2 years later, her husband Joe was diagnosed with ataxia, and he has SCA2. And shortly thereafter, their youngest daughter, Amy, tested positive for SCA2 as well. She is a strong advocate for raising awareness of ataxia, starting a support group in Delaware, along with her husband Joe. Please welcome Kathy DiCrescenzo. And then last but certainly not least, let's welcome Linda Snyder, MD. Linda is a physician by training, and she is able to help people directly in that role. She helps, she recently helped co-found a nonprofit organization that helps ataxians in the Midwest connect with each other and offers hands-on assistance with everyday needs. Please put your hands together and welcome Linda Snyder. Now, before we get going, I need to know which one of you guys needs the mic. Is it Jonas? Do you need...
Don't give it to me. I'll just keep talking.
Well, we want the people in the broadcast to be able to hear you. So I'm going to give this to you.
Okay.
And let's see if I can set you up before I leave. Let's see, Jonas. Let's do a test.
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
I better go back to my day job.
Check. There we are.
All right.
Right, guys.
We have a check,
Good
Roddy. You
deal.
had to
Thank
pull
you,
this
Dave.
one, too.
Good to see you. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We all know how lonely ataxia can be, right? You get diagnosed. Ataxia, what the heck is that? We've all asked ourselves that question. And I think the loneliest thing about ataxia is that we feel misunderstood, right? No one else understands. And that's how you feel, especially at first when you're sitting at home in your house and you feel like no one else knows the word ataxia. That's kind of a weird word anyway, right? No one else even knows that beyond the walls of your house. But then you come to a place like this, and there's hundreds of other people that are going through the same things you are. And for me, my first NAF conference It was a life-changing experience. And it's the thing that helped me the most in my battle with Friedreich's ataxia. And it continues to help me every day as I interact with other people in the community. And so this panel, that's what we're here to talk about, is just living with ataxia. And to relate to each other and keep it going, keep the relationships building. And that's what's happening here this weekend. So that's what we're here to talk about. Thank you, Dana, for doing all the introductions. Now we can just jump right into the panel. We have a list of questions that were submitted before a couple months ago, and we've all kind of gone through and discussed them and found that these questions are really, can bring a lot out about how we deal with ataxia and how we think that others can do the same. So the first question I want to ask to all of our panelists, and so we'll go down the line, but the question is, what activities or techniques or mindset do you use to maintain a positive attitude and humor living with ataxia? So, Jonas, do you want to go first?
Sure, why not?
All right.
Hello, Philadelphia. We have to stop meeting like this. Okay, I'm here all weekend. Anyways, it's the thing about ataxia that people seem to not understand is that life is different. It's not over. It's just different. We all had a dream. We all had plans of how things were going to be, and we got sideswiped, and that's okay. It's just you have to live life daily. You have to go on every day. When you stop being able to do one thing, you start being able to do another thing. I don't work anymore. I'm sure that a lot of you don't work anymore. Yes, it stinks to be broke, but I don't have to deal with, workplace drama. I don't have to deal with bosses. I don't have to do any of that. I just have to eat hot dogs and beans.
It's hot dogs and beans.
But, it's real simple. Life is not over. It's just different. And once you get that concept, you can be kind of at peace with yourself.
I love it. I think we can all see how humor relates to Jonas's, the way he deals with ataxia and gets along every day. So I love it. Thank you, Jonas. Linda, what do you think about humor and just a general mindset about dealing with ataxia?
Okay, before I answer that, Dana did a lovely introduction, but she failed to mention that I have ataxia. So well, you may not have noticed, right? Because there's all different forms of ataxia. Some people use a cane, a walker, a wheelchair. Some people right now are still able to walk. 10 years from now, it'll be more obvious, but right now, walking up here, you may not have known. So I do have SCA1 or SCA1. It's in my family, and then I have it as well. So the humor piece of it, for me, is huge. I don't actually seek out humor, necessarily. I just find it in everyday life. So there are times that I trip and fall, and then I try to make a joke of it, right? Like, I act like I'm a Nadia Comaneci gymnast, and I'm like 10, perfect score for my fall there. Or I'll stumble into someone. That happens a lot. I'll stumble into someone. Now, if it's a guy, I tend to be like, oh, I wanted to meet you, but this is a heck of a way to do it. Or I try to make a joke of the things I do. And because people think you're drunk when you're not, that seems to be a common thing, at least happening in my world. So a lot of times I'll say like, wow, I did that and I'm not even drunk. I'll make sure that they know that isn't actually the case. There's something else going on. So I tend to make a joke of what the things I do, but that's kind of who I am. I don't take myself too seriously. I also have a very low embarrassment factor, so I don't easily get embarrassed. I am who I am. I'm human, and I'm just me, and I don't take myself too serious.
Awesome. I love it. Linda, I think your humor and the way you deal with stuff every day, I mean, we just met yesterday, right? But I can tell that you put people at ease around you. I think a lot of times we can compound the situation if we're not comfortable with ourselves, right? I know we've all been through that. That's just something that comes along with it. But I think you put people at ease because of your humor, and so thank you for sharing that with us. Kathy, what do you think to give the caregivers perspective on, just kind of the mindset?
Oh, you can hear it? Okay. First of all, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm going to be using my notes, just so you know. We don't dwell on the fact that Joe has ataxia, but we live each day as though he doesn't have it. And we find humor in everything. We laugh a lot. We laugh often at ourselves. And that's even funnier because whatever happens, we just make a joke of it, like you guys do, And we're truly thankful just for everything that we've been given. And acceptance was a big part in moving forward for us. First, we had to accept the fact that Joe had it. And also, our daughter has it, and she'll be 39 in June. So she has it as well as CA2. And that's harder to adjust to, knowing that your child has it. But like everyone said here, it's just, you have to just accept it and move forward and make a joke out of it sometime and just have fun. And really,
I love it. Yeah, I love that you bring up acceptance because I think that's
definitely
a huge thing for all of us, right? And I don't think it's a one and done thing. It doesn't just happen, right? It's a constant process of accepting, and so I love that. I know that we can all relate to it for sure.
And we don't let ataxia control our lives.
Yep.
We just keep going. That's all you can do.
I love it.
Yep.
All right, so the next sort of theme that we're going to talk about a little bit is the loss of freedom. So I know that that's a theme that I know that Linda talked about last night, and Jonas, I know you have some thoughts on it too. But so the question is, how do we best deal with loss of stature or freedoms, such as driving or work, as you mentioned, Jonas, or stuff like that? So what do you think?
Okay. You have to keep in mind that there are many different forms of ataxia. What's good for one is not good for the other, and vice versa. I was diagnosed 23 years ago, and I still drive. Matter of fact, I drove here from Chicago, and I don't recommend that for anybody. It's you just got to put things into perspective. You've got to decide, where do you drive? Do you drive in downtown traffic every day, or do you drive down the rural road going to the store to get a gallon of milk? There's a big difference. And the same with work. Some people are amazed if, an ataxia is still working. The fact is that that person has a form of ataxia that still allows them to work. So if you can, you should. And if you can't, you shouldn't. It's just very simple. And Many people tend to wait for the doctor to tell them to do or not to do this anymore. Well, it's all apparent. You know, if you feel safe, fine. If you don't feel safe, don't, you know, then don't, because you shouldn't have to have a doctor tell you what or what not to do. You should know. You know, most of us are adults. Some of us, like me, never grew up. But everybody should know, and the big thing that we're talking about is acceptance. And yes, it you know, is kind of terrible to have some freedom taken away, but that's life.
Yeah.
You can't drive anymore, you ride the bike. It's that simple. It's, you know, everybody just got to deal with it, and you'll be fine.
Love it. I love how Jonas breaks it down to the simplest things, right? Either you can or you can't, and we gotta figure out how to accept it and move on, right? I love that. Thank you, Jonas. Kathy, how do you and Joe deal with the loss of freedoms and stature?
Well, Joe's retired. He retired about 2 years ago. He knew it was time. He was taking the rollator into Philadelphia on the train. So that didn't work anymore. So he retired. As far as his driving, he quit driving about 1.5 years ago. But I want to bring up a point about that. For any of you that still drive, you should get a note from your doctor to keep in your glove box, just stating that what your condition is. And they could still give you a sobriety test, but at least you have a note, and they could always call your doctor to confirm it. You know, but if you are intoxicated, that's a different story. But the note does help. It's the safety net. You know, anyway. It really hasn't impacted our traveling. We love to travel. We do as much as we can. It's a little harder to get from point A to point B, but it does work. We just adapt. You have to adapt. We purchased a scooter that I can take apart myself into 3 parts, and it goes underneath the plane in the luggage compartment. So you just have to find ways to keep going, and you know, if you want to travel, keep traveling if you could, and drive until you can't drive anymore.
Love it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right?
Nice work. Thank you, Kathy. So I want to move a little bit into what we're referring to as mental activity. And, you know, I feel like sometimes as our physical abilities wane and we have to look at other things, we also, a lot of us are interested in keeping our mind sharp as well. And so, Linda, I know that you had a few thoughts on different ways to do that and just kind of a different outlook about mental activities.
So again, I have a little bit of a different role because I'm like a patient because I have ataxia, but I'm also a physician. So I run kind of both realms of the world here. But so with the mental activities in my daily life, I read CAT scans. I look at people's brains. And a lot of times I notice that as we age, everyone, their brain gets atrophied, it gets smaller. But what interests me most is when people are older and that hasn't happened to them. And so then I try to figure out, well, what is it that person does to make their brain still look young? And so what I found out that it's not one thing. So the question was, is it puzzles? Is it one thing? It's not one thing. It's a variety. So when we're children, we go to school and we're forced to learn. So every day you're meeting new teacher, new friends, you're learning new subjects, things like that. The problem is, as an adult, we have the same job, so we tend to do the same thing every day. We have the same friend circle, so we don't necessarily meet lots of new people. And we tend to start maybe vacationing in the same spot we love all the time, or eat at the same restaurant we love. So the variety is the key, really. So meet new people, join a support group, start one in your area if there isn't one. Meet other ataxians, meet other non-ataxians. Start take a cooking class, learn how to sew, do something, learn a language off of one of those CDs or tapes or whatever. Anything you do to make your mind do something different, even as simple as going to work a different way than you used to going, so driving in a different way than you're used to. Things like that help keep your brain sharp.
Love it. And, getting stuck in a rut, that's not a thing that ataxia people deal with, right? It's something that everyone deals with, but I think we can learn a lot from that, especially with ataxia. I think it's easier to get stuck in a rut, right? And so, getting out with those simple techniques is really good. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, as far as relationships, so Kathy, I wanted to ask you, how do you keep your personal relationships, and yours and Joe's maybe as a couple, how do you keep those up while dealing with ataxia that seems like no one understands? How do you communicate with your friends?
We have a great circle of friends, between personal friends, church friends, our family. We stay active. We go out every week to dinner with our friends. What else? Communication is key for Joe and I. We sit down, we talk, we have dinner together, we watch our shows that we, like together. It's just, hold on. Let's see. We just make it work. This is one thing that's a little strange, but I never thought I would admit this, but at our first visit with Dr. Savitt, at the time he was at Johns Hopkins, he told us one day, not maybe, but you will sleep in separate rooms. And we just chuckled, thinking that's never going to happen. It's happened. We cannot sleep in the same room. No. He has sleep apnea, he has restless leg syndrome, and he makes a weird noise from his throat. He knows it. So I'm actually running on 4 hours of sleep today because we were in the same room last night. So that's just testament to that theory. But yeah. But we commune,
I love that you share that, because I think, I'm pretty sure, I would bet that Joe's not the only one that makes a weird noise from his throat,
Whoa, you don't want to hear it.
So it's something that we can all relate to,
I hope
I
he's
think.
not listening, but I actually put on an app at 4 o'clock this morning, a recording, and I taped him. Because I told him, please turn over, do something.
So if anyone wants to hear
you're
the
making
noise.
noises. He says, no, I'm not. You are. So he didn't hear it yet. So
Love that.
if you're out there, sorry.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about physical exercise, something that I love and I'm very interested in. But Jonas, as we were connecting before this on the phone, you were talking about a few things that you do indoor and outdoor for exercise with ataxia.
Okay.
I think we have a
Some
photo.
slides, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, as activity becomes less and less, normal traditional activities, you got to come up with alternatives. And one thing that I've done is, and it's for indoors. You've probably heard of them. You've probably seen the infomercials on TV a long time ago, and you can probably pick it up cheap on eBay right now. But there's a thing called the Gazelle by Tony Little. It's kind of a ski, kind of a stepper, kind of a all-in-one thing. It was maybe $200 or $300 new. You can probably pick one up on eBay for $50 or $75. Anyway, it's just a good way to keep your legs and your arms moving. When when it comes to more traditional, there's the treadmill. There's ways to do things. You just have to use your noodle. I actually have a couple of ropes tied to the rafters in my garage, where I can keep up like this, and I can lift my legs and jump. But you have to improvise, and when it comes to outdoors, Kyle will agree with me on this. There's nothing like a recumbent tricycle. Nothing like it. The first time you get on it, you will smile from ear to ear. Just remembering how much damn fun it was to ride a bike around the neighborhood. Yeah. And since we don't have much balance, the bike is, for people that can, they should. A regular bike is good. An adult tricycle is good. A recumbent tricycle is good. You can stop pedaling and you can just sit there. You're not going to fall. That's a big concern of mine, is because I got the ataxia from my mother, and Alzheimer's runs on my father's side. So one day I'm going to fall down and forget how to get back up.
Nice.
But the key thing is to just improvise and keep moving and keep doing something, because sitting on the couch eating bonbons and watching TV, that's not good for anybody, especially in ataxia. So just keep moving.
Love that. Love that. And maybe one of the lessons is that if you are doing physical exercise, always have a buddy so they can pick you up when you fall, right?
That's it. That's it.
Especially if you forget how to get back up. All right, love it. So just real quick, I wanted to address this question. It was addressed to me. How do you think cycling has slowed, stopped, or even reversed aspects of your progression with the ataxia? And I think that it truly has. So, okay, this is how I think of it. Everyone has an ability curve, right? My curve it goes down. It went up at a certain point. It's probably going down now. It's different than Jonas. It's different than Linda, Kathy, Joe, anyone, right? We all have a different ability curve, but our responsibility is to stay at the top of our curve at all times, at the top of our personal curve. So to keep ourselves as physically able as we can at all times. Regardless of ataxia, that's going to limit us, right? But our responsibility is to stay at the top of that curve. And so I think that has helped me slow the symptoms as much as possible. And also, the part of this question is, how much is the empowering part of your cycling? Well, you know what? Just knowing that I am doing everything I can to stay at the top of my ability curve is empowering to me. And so anyway, that's how I think that physical exercise has helped me to slow my progression of FA. There was a specific question here about swallowing, and I want to give that question to Linda, kind of from the medical perspective, and also obviously from the personal perspective too. Are there any techniques for swallowing other than eating slower or smaller bites that can help with swallowing?
So there are lots of things that you can do to improve both speech and swallowing, which become a problem as we get farther advanced in the ataxia. So it's all about muscle. So the problem with ataxia is you start losing coordination. It affects most obviously the big muscles. You can't walk, you can't move your arm, things like that. But it's all the small muscles too. And so you have to remember that your mouth and your tongue and your throat are all muscles too, and you should exercise them. So there are actually exercises to do to make those things stronger. And you can go ahead and Google them. I'll demonstrate some now. It's not pretty, and I've never done it in front of 500 people. Here you go. So first of all, to exercise your mouth, make faces, get in the mirror, whatever you do. So just moving your lips, pursing them, smiling big, anything to open your mouth and start working your lips. For your tongue, actually stick your tongue out. Not a little, a lot, as far as you can go. And you'll feel the back of your tongue have to work, especially when you start holding it there. Then use your finger as resistance. So I literally, here we go, sit there with my tongue and push against my finger, side up, down, and side to side, and hold it there. Your tongue will get tired, but also stronger, which keeps your speech and helps your swallowing. Because you have to, when you chew, your tongue helps make a little ball of food and actually pushes it to the back of your throat to swallow. So you need your tongue to work really well. And then to actually practice your throat muscles, gargle. So get some mouthwash, water, whatever you want to do. Go ahead. If you're able to, gargle. That's the best way. Other than that, if you take a straw and try to suck air through the straw and force those muscles to work, that helps too. Now, then when you go to swallow, actually tuck your chin. So don't swallow like this. Tuck your chin down, then swallow. So if you can consciously remember that, particularly with water or liquids, whenever you do that, remember to put it in your mouth and then kind of tuck your chin down. That'll help you swallow as well. It blocks off your airway so things don't go down into your lung and you start coughing. It helps that.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Joe uses a straw, and that helps immensely when he drinks liquids. And I don't know, it keeps him from choking. Because just drinking with a cup or a glass, he tends to choke. But once he uses the straw, the bent one, with the perforation, it really helps him. So that's a tip.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. And, it's something different for everybody, right? And so trying a whole bunch of different things.
Try, yeah.
I'll have all the suggestions because there are things that we can all try and figure out what works for us. So, love it. Nice. All right. So there was a question here, little about independent living and sort of the rules there. How do you, the rules are one thing, I guess. With independent living a lot of times is 55 plus communities, or maybe even there's an age limit that's different. And, for people with ataxia, a lot of times we need help with independent living, and maybe we're under 55 or 62, whatever the age limit is. And so I think that was one of the main questions, but I just kind of wanted to get a perspective. Kathy, I think you had a few things to say about independent living.
Well, I have nothing to offer as far as an independent living facility, but we moved to almost 2 years ago to a 55-plus community where our outside is taken care of by landscapers of the development. The master bedrooms on one level, the first level. We came from all the bedrooms on the second level, and that wasn't working anymore, so we had to do something. But I know in Delaware, they allow a percentage of people under 55 to go into these 55-plus. You're still responsible for the inside of your house, but the outside is maintained totally. You don't have to go out and shovel or cut the grass. It's wonderful. But if you need more than that, then you'd have to look into assisted living. But that works for us right now.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Linda, did you have anything to add? You did a little bit of research, I think.
I started calling around because a lot of people had asked about the 55-year age limit. And I called, and everywhere I called said to me that it's not an actual rule, it's a suggestion. So in reality, when you call them, they always make an exception. And it's up to the director of the place. But if you call them and explain your situation, the 55 age thing is not an issue.
There we go. All right, like it. All right. So I wanted to leave a little time now. We have a few minutes to give everybody a last word and kind of closing comments for the panel. So Kathy, did you want to start?
Yeah, actually, I have a poem I want to read that I wrote in 2013, and I dedicated it to my husband, Joe, and all the incredible people we've met here at all the NAF conferences. They're courageous people. I mean, you have to admit, everyone here has their own story. They progress differently, but they're all here and they're all moving on. So it's called Keep Going. I'll put my glasses on. Okay. As morning breaks, we awaken with the unknown upon us. We hope and pray for the best, sunshine and warmth. Though if clouds and rain are meant to be, we dig deep into our being to bring out the positive in whatever the day has up its sleeve. We are strong, we are resilient, we keep going. We do not falter, we do not complain, we keep going. We do what we must to make the day bright. We do what we must to rest peacefully at night. Sleep in separate rooms. We gather as one to share our lives. We gather as one to continue our fight. We hold on to each other with dignity as our journey moves forward. We hold on to each other and we do not allow fear to control us. We are thankful for each and every day. We are thankful for our loved ones and friends who encourage us along the way. At the end of the day, we may say a prayer or two. And at the end of the day, with hope in our hearts, we are focused on the dawning of a new day tomorrow. That's it.
Love it. Beautiful.
Just personally, watching Joe struggling every day is difficult for me. But you get through it. We adapt like anything else. And the second thing that bothers me is our daughter. You know, she's very strong. She exercises a lot, which is, we found out is excellent to do. But it's like when she was a little girl with a skin knee, you can't help her. I mean, we were able to fix it. This you can't fix unless they find a cure. But other than that, we're just thankful for every day we're given together, and we're just moving on and see what tomorrow brings.
Love that.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
All right. Linda, did you want to give some closing comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Having ataxia is really accepting different levels of loss. So loss of mobility, loss of your job, loss of friendships, whatever it is. The key to overcoming all those different levels of loss is a couple things. One, you have to change your mindset. So the first thing I think is acceptance. And it's okay to be human. Sad, oh my God, I'm so sad I have this, why me? Anger at the whole situation because you shouldn't have it because you're a good person. It's okay to be a human and have all those emotions, but eventually you have to realize that this is your battle to fight, and you better fight it. But you're not fighting alone. So the next thing is to realize that you're one of many who's going to help you fight, and you have to accept that help, not only from your caregivers, but the researchers next door doing everything they can to find a cure, to the other people who support ataxians. It goes on and on. So the military is familiar because we have soldiers, but in reality we fight better and more effectively as an army. So together we're an ataxia army, I suppose, and then we're going to fight it together. So
yeah, love that. All right, Jonas, it's your turn. You can close us out here.
I want everybody to notice my coffee cup here. It has a lid on it, and it has a fat bottom on it. And so I literally cannot knock it over. So it's just one of those things that you learn along the way. And actually, I had a closing typed up, but because I have ataxia, I forgot it in my car. So the thing, you know, I want to stress to everybody is to just accept and keep on moving. And when I say keep on moving, it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and lift the weights and do all kinds of calisthenics. It means just keep moving. Sweep the floor, walk the dog, do whatever it is that's daily activity. Daily activity is exercise, whether people look at it that way or not. I want to thank Dana for the introductions. The one thing, well, a couple things that weren't in there is not only am I a patient with ataxia, I'm also a parent because my daughter has ataxia too. So I feel many of your pains. The thing is, you just gotta live life. You know, nobody's giving you anything just because you have ataxia. You've got to go out and work for it, just like you've got to go out and work for everything else. You know, whether you have ataxia or not. I founded the Chicago support group 20-some years ago. I was a truck driver and construction worker for most of my previous life. I always refer to pre-ataxia as my previous life. But I was also a musician. I played live to crowds like you for years and years and years. When I could no longer play and sing, I became a DJ because I was still involved in music, and it was as close as I could get to doing what I love to do. And like I say, it's not that you gotta, you know, mourn the loss of something, just replace it with something else. Soon, my event DJing, which you're all going to see tomorrow night, is going to come to an end because I just don't want to do it anymore. I can't do it anymore, and I don't want to. So I'm going to start an online radio station. What does that mean? That means that when you close one chapter of your life, you open another chapter. And as everybody here has been saying, everything about ataxia is what's up here, what's between your ears. Not just your coconut, but your way of thinking, your way of relating. I'm going to do a shameless plug here because I can. Because somebody made the mistake of giving me a microphone. But if later on or this afternoon or tomorrow, whatever, and when you're in the media room, I do have a table and a booth there. A booth. It's a table. They call them a booth. I don't know, whatever. But I did read a book a couple of years ago. It's called Life with Ataxia. And most people, when people go to read a book about ataxia, it's more or less an account of their personal stories and struggles. To me, that doesn't mean much. What I put together is something that everybody can use. It's information. It's Ataxia 101. It's kind of an owner's manual. It applies to all ataxias. It don't matter what kind you have. So, if you want, come and educate yourself. Pick up one of my books, and get ahead of the learning curve. And the one thing that I want to leave you with is that just remember, if you think you can do something or you think you can't do something, you're probably right.
Yep. Love it. All right. All right, so what we heard here was some practical advice, also some relating that we wanted to display for acceptance. But I think the overall theme here was community and learning from each other, right? That was a theme in almost every comment that was made. And that's what's happening here this weekend. This is an example of the conversations that are happening all over in this whole conference this weekend. So take advantage of that. I want to thank Kathy and Linda and Jonas for this amazing panel. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I want to continue the conversation with these three and with me and with everyone else here this weekend. So thanks so much.